What movie hit you the hardest, emotionally speaking? I think Never Let Me Go is a film that I loved because it was beautifully done, but I would never want to rewatch it again because it was just so sad. There's a scene where one of the main characters gets some bad news and he screams, and his screams went right through me. I haven't read the book, but imagine it's a similar beautiful tragedy. Hotel Rwanda. Knowing some of my family members went through a war similar to that and finally being old enough, 14, to grasp what that meant fricked me up for weeks. The end of A Little Princess. She finds her father and he doesn't remember her. Gut punch every time. It was on Netflix. I need to check if it's still there so I can watch it with my daughter. That was my favorite movie when I was little. I would always tear up when she was trying to get her dad to recognize her. The ending is so sweet though. Castaway. You're the love of my life. Helen Hunt was on screen for what felt like only about 30 minutes in the movie, but her portrayal of a woman who lost someone so important but somehow learned to love again, then to lose them again, was a gut punch. I loved everything about Tom Hanks' acting in this movie, but it was Helen Hunt who made it truly memorable for me. The Fox and the Hound, where the owl sings Best of Friends. We all start out so pure, innocent and full of love. It makes me incredibly sad because of all the hate in the world. Gattaca. Something about catching this film on a Sunday afternoon wondering what I should do with my life just spoke to me. I've always wondered what others felt about it. I never saved anything for the swim back. The Pianist. After I finished the movie, it just dawned on me that this could really happen to anyone. We take our periods of peace for granted, as one day we might be put in a similar situation where we lose everything, and that really fricked with me hard. The scene where he plays the piano, but actually not playing, just fingering the keys, made me so sad. I watched Atonement, having never read the book. For me, that ending was absolutely gut-wrenching and I just sat there in the dark crying my eyes out when it was over. I legit thought there was going to be a happy ending and then, no. That ending fricked me up for days. At one point I was bawling and yelling, why the frick would someone make a movie about this? I was pretty mad at myself for watching it. 10 years later and that flooded underground scene still pops into my head and ruins my day. What Dreams May Come leaves me a sobbing mess through the whole movie. This used to be one of my favorite movies. Always a great one for a good cry ending with happy sniffles. I haven't watched it in 11 years, not since my mother's suicide. Never thought about it until now. The DVD sits on the shelf. I just always pass it. It might just be time to take it down and give it a watch. Something to think about at least. Pan's Labyrinth. The ending was heartbreaking, but honestly the whole movie was just sad and violent. Highly recommend it though. Children of Men. I watch it once a year with someone who hasn't seen it before because seeing them go through that roller coaster and sit in stunned silence afterwards reminds me of what it was like when I saw it when it first came out. What a gut lunch of a movie. The scene where Clive Owen gets like 5 seconds to cry over his dead love behind that tree before he's got to pull it together and move on. That freaking hurt. No Time to Mourn. Brutal, and it really brought home the stakes in this world. Life is Beautiful. The kid's dad gets him to believe the concentration camp is just a game and everyone is in on it like it's a special adventure to protect him from the horrors they faced. We watched that movie in 8th grade when we had nothing to do in math at the end of the year. When I watched Bridge to Terabithia I thought this is not so bad. What is everyone talking about? Pretty wholesome overall, and then it happened and I cried like a baby. I always refer to it as Bridge to Tiamat, which I think is the original title. Grave of the Fireflies. I watched it with my friend back in the early 90s. My sister happened to stop by near the end. We were both ugly crying. She was like, "Are you okay? What's going on?" It was hard to explain. I took my kids to see it during a Ghibli Fest last year, and I could hardly drive home afterwards. We were all sobbing. The Rugrats movie. The scene where Chucky watches everyone dance with their mother and he realizes that he's the only one without one. I remember watching this movie in class in 5th grade. My mom passed when I was in 2nd grade and I was crying so much they had to take me out of the classroom. Arrival. If you've never seen it, quit dreading now when you realize that she knew that her daughter was going to die, but she got pregnant anyway, and that her husband would find out that she could have chosen to spare him from having to suffer the devastating loss of his child, but she had her anyway, all while knowing that her husband would leave her and never forgive her because she had the knowledge to prevent the pain. But she chose to love the child for the time she could, knowing all along that it would cause her to lose everything. Gladiator, the scene at the end where he is walking through the field towards his family. I threw my sunglasses on to hide my crying in the theater. Poor idea because they fogged up instantly. I still tried to keep my cool as a 14-year-old. Deep Impact. The astronauts have all decided to sacrifice themselves to save Earth. One of the astronauts was blinded in an accident while on the mission, and also his wife gave birth while he was away. All the astronauts are saying their final goodbyes to their family, and the guy in mission control tells the blinded astronaut that with the evacuation, the escort to get her was delayed and wouldn't make it, but at the last second the wife and baby run in. So the blinded astronaut about to sacrifice himself says goodbye to his wife and baby he's literally never seen, while his fellow astronauts are giving him a narrative description of what the baby is doing. Other astronaut whispering, he's holding a stuffed spaceship. Blind astronaut to his newborn son, that's a powerful rocket you got there. It's been 20 years and even thinking about it makes me tear up. Dead Poets Society. I cry every time I watch that movie and especially when I realize Robin Williams is no longer alive. Wreck-It Ralph. That movie still makes me cry. I have high functioning autism, and seeing a movie say what you are does not define who you are really hurt. In a good way. I saw people criticize the movie for seeming to have the message of just do what you're told by society and don't try to change, but I think that misses the point. Ralph is a bad guy, that's what he is. He wrecks things. But he's so much deeper than that. Ralph is a very caring and thoughtful person who genuinely just wants people to like him. Ralph thinks that being a hero, or normal in the real world equivalent, will make everyone love him. At the end of the film he realizes that it doesn't matter if he is the bad guy, if people don't like him, because what matters is that someone likes him. When I get depressed I like to recite his little bad guy affirmation thing, with a slight tweak. I'm different, and that's good. I'll never be normal, and that's not bad. There's no one I'd rather be than me. I know it's cheesy, but it really helps me feel better. That affirmation is important. You want to be the best version of yourself, whatever that happens to be, rather than trying to fit in. Yeah, I'm gonna laugh, but Disney's Brother Bear. Man, when Kenai tells Coda about what happened on the cliffs I always feel so heartbroken. I miss the Disney Renaissance, even if this movie doesn't typically get lumped in. Of all things, Logan. I actually got moved during 2 death scenes which has never happened. Then again I was kinda fricked at the time. I'm a big fan of both Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart, and when I like a movie I'll watch it a bunch of times, but I don't think I'll ever watch that one again. I cried at Mufas's death in The Lion King, 1990s animated version. The first few times I watched it, I still tear up a little. It's Simba's reaction that gets me. It's not that bad and kind of basic, but I broke down during Titanic when the mother was telling her children bedtime stories when she realized she couldn't save them when the ship began flooding. That scene and the elderly couple clinging to one another. Tangled. When I saw it, I was living with a friend, still in high school, because my overprotective and stable mother kicked me out, not for the first time, but then she would play victim and make me come back home. I've always been a sap for Disney movies, but that one really hit me with the situation at the time. The lantern boat ride scene was so beautiful and hit me the hardest. Fast forward 8 years later to the Disney World fireworks with my then boyfriend who knew how special that scene was for me. He waited till they turned the castle scene into a million lanterns and started playing See the Light, and then he proposed to me. Took one of my saddest memories and made it into my happiest. I have tears in my eyes just typing this. That's incredibly sweet and thoughtful of him. You have to appreciate someone who truly knows what something means to you and wants to show that he cares. Your Name or Kimi no Na wa. It made me really reconsider my views on couples relationships. But in truth, TV shows affect me more emotionally. I didn't cry watching Your Name, but right after I watched Silent Voice and uncontrollably sobbed like a baby. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. The scene where Cedric's dad finds out his son has been killed. When the father wails out in anguish, it crushes me every time. This is how I felt when my son died. I don't know why, but I can't remember one time I've watched Pokémon the first movie without absolutely sobbing. Something about the quotes, the hand-drawn animation, the message, the characters, the soundtrack. God, I love that film. Not technically a movie, but make happy by No Burnham on Netflix. Especially the line "Come and watch the skinny kid with a steadily declining mental health," and laugh as he attempts to give you what he cannot give himself. I came here to laugh. Damn it. P.S. I love you. The Time Traveler's Wife. Saw both of them not long after my first husband passed away from cancer and definitely were a big emotional hit. I read The Time Traveler's Wife and the ending hit me really hard. I never watched the movie because I thought it would never live up to the book. Bridge to Terabithia. The scene where Jesse squeezes out his fancy paints that Leslie gave him in the river just took me out. It's been 12 years and I haven't been able to recover emotionally. My ex loved that movie and the book. She committed suicide not too long after it came out. Saw it once when she was around. Not sure I can ever watch it again. Coco. I saw it a couple days after my grandfather, my best friend, passed away. My husband thought it was going to cheer me up because I was hit with a depression over his passing. I'm Mexican and he passed on November 2nd, which is Dia de los Muertos, and when I was watching the movie it hit me so hard I was just sobbing and crying in the theater. It made me feel like he was with me again. Fantastic movie. I sent a letter to Pixar thanking them for helping me get through it. Although I haven't heard back, I know that movie will always be my favorite, and I thanked my husband for encouraging me to go out and watch it. 1998 Rugrats. The movie made cry like a little girl during that part of the movie where Tommy was going to pour the banana baby food on his little brother so the monkeys will take him away. The Fountain. I'm a big fan of cinematography and wanted to see it. I saw it opening night with my then GF. Theater wasn't that packed as that movie wasn't really meant to be commercial, so there was maybe about 12 other people in the theater and I believe all were couples. Last 30 minutes I heard all the women start to cry and the men, including me, grunt and drink a lot of soda as that helps not make you cry. Out of the corner of my eye I definitely saw tears running down my girlfriend's face and then it happened to me. We both started to cry and made the crying noises. After the movie ended we both didn't talk for about an hour. We were still trying to process everything. That movie was emotionally heavy in the last 30 minutes. Frick man, just thinking about it I should stop. Movie wasn't for everything, but gee dang was it hard to watch the last act for all the emotional scenes. This movie, above all others in this list, absolutely wrecked me. Going back to it years later it's still just as powerful. No movie has ever captured the depths of grief as well as this one. It's not something I would ever watch, except in a mood of loss and a need to let it go, but it works. I cry during Mulan. It makes me so emotional when I think about how much love Mulan has for her dad. She put herself in danger to save her father's life. The greatest gift and honor is having you for a daughter. I cry every time. The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. I had to watch it in 5th grade and it still makes me feel sad when I think about the ending. Interstellar. I watched it the first time and was a wreck. The second time was just masochistic. I will never ever watch it again. My daughter is now 8 years old. That's the deal. That soundtrack. Hans Zimmer captured the desperate will to survive in music like I don't think anyone ever has. It's so relentless. Wristcutters. A love story. Obvious suicidal theme, but I was not prepared for the level of depth and introspective tendencies. Saved my life. Growing up suicidal, you never really plan on being around long enough to plan your life out and set long-term goals. Helped me cope with a lot of the feelings I was having and showed me another path. It's a Wonderful Life. Holy crap. I saw it in a film course in university about 35 years ago and have not been able to watch it since. Imagine the world without your participation. The world keeps going as you watch. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.